What up, what up, what up, what up? What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
Now Miguel.
Been a hot minute since we were here, but we are here and finally talking all things Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire. This was one of our most anticipated movies of the year. Lots of thoughts on it now that I've had some time to stew. And in addition to talking Godzilla and Kong, and this kind of goes into originally we were going to do two separate streams, two separate shows, and we were like, hey, now that we've seen the new one, we can rank the entire Monsterverse. But I think the more and more I've kind of thought about this and stewed on the New Empire, I kind of feel like they kind of go hand in hand in both of these. So, and apparently the dog agrees, right?
Yeah, just a bit.
That's all right. So we hope you all are doing well. We've missed you guys. It's been a busy year. Like I feel like this year, man, more than years past, I just feel like it's hard to get like a rhythm going with the show. You know what I mean? It's been difficult to kind of keep that up week to week, but yeah, I'm glad we're here and I'm glad we're talking about it. So, we've missed you guys. So Godzilla and Kong came out about when did that come out? Probably like 3 weeks ago now, since we've been on this train kind of thinking about it, talking about it.
Yeah, just about.
As you all know, Miguel and I are huge Godzilla and Kong fans. The Monsterverse was something that I've found myself enjoying it more than I ever would have thought that I did. When Godzilla 2014 came out, I was like, that's kind of cool, and then after Kong Skull Island, seeing that post-credit scene, it was like, oh, okay, this is a little bit bigger than, than what I kind of anticipated or ever imagined that it would be. It's been fun. It's fun. Like that's the thing that's kind of the catch-22 with the Monsterverse stuff, is that it is fun, but it's like how long can you stretch it out? How many times can we do the same type of thing over and over and over again? And that's kind of where I find myself with Godzilla and Kong, and we're gonna get into that kind of once we get into the ranking too. My ranking was tough. I don't know about yours, but I found
Just
mine
five. There's just 5 movies to go from. Not that hard.
I know, but the order, I was like, it was difficult. The top 2 were not difficult. The bottom 3, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I could interchange any of those and be completely fine. And it's weird because, like, how I rank them would change based on, like, what the criteria is. Like, which one I think is the most fun is not the one that I think is the best. Like, if you're ranking them solely based on which movies are the best, my ranking would completely change, 100%. So it's a weird one, but
Well, I'm not gonna rank these movies based on like what I feel like is,
which one is Oscar worthy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever one was much more fun is the way or whichever one I feel, had much more essence of what Godzilla is, or just had more screen time of him, or dare I say.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm sure by the time we get to the list, you guys will probably get why my list is the way it is. For Brad, I guess he had an entirely different criteria. For me, it was just, did I like seeing Godzilla in the film?
Yeah, I know, right? It's a mix of criteria for me. It's not all the same. It's not all, it's a mixture of like what I get the most enjoyment out of rewatching. It's, which one I think has the best stories and characters, and kind of the interaction between the Titans and the human characters. There's a lot to it. We're gonna get to that in just a minute. But first of all, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking an ice cold green Heineken, Doug. What are you doing?
Nice. I took the fam to Tennessee last weekend.
Like every year, Brad goes to Tennessee.
One of our,
there's some
we like
time
it. We like it
every year.
Listen,
Brad just somehow finds himself in Tennessee.
Here's the thing. So Kentucky is close enough to Gatlinburg that, like, it's still it still feels like you're getting away, but I can be home in 4 hours. Like if I really want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll tell you one thing. Listen, hey, PSA for all of America right here, right now. If you go to Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, that area, if you go there, do not, under any circumstances, go to the brand new, I guess it's not really brand new anymore. Do not go to the Sevierville Bucky's. Don't.
Well,
Just like save yourself the problems and just don't do it. We went because we were like, hey, we'll get some, we've stopped at like there's
yeah,
one
the man wins
in
goes to
Richmond in
like,
Kentucky.
yeah.
There's one in Alabama that we've been to. We went to the Sevierville one. I think it's the biggest one
You
because they
went
were
to
like
the
kind of
one in
advertising
Alabama?
that like it's the biggest one. Yeah, we've been to the one in Alabama. We're
I
coming
had
back
no
from
idea.
Florida and we stopped at that one. Yeah,
Oh.
and like no issues at the Kentucky one, at the Alabama one, no issues at all. It took us an hour and a half to leave the parking lot. To get from parking space to road, it took an hour and a half. It literally tacked it. Like, I could have been home over an hour before I was, thanks to Bucky's. So, just saying, do not go
Shout
to
out
Bucky's.
Bucky's.
I'm sorry, Bucky's.
Shout
Don't
out
hate me.
Bucky's.
You're fine. I'm not like it's I don't know. It's not that it's some people I think look at it like it's white people Disney World or something. I don't know.
Because it is. I mean, it's great.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think I've ever been to the Bucky's and not felt good leaving it.
Full just
I mean, like
your
I'm
entire body is just thrilled.
well, every single time I've been to Bucky's, I don't think I've ever left there like disappointed. I mean, I enjoyed it.
No, it's great. All their stuff is great. I mean, the
Mhm.
food's delicious. The
I
stuff is
would just,
delicious. It's all
I
high
would just,
quality.
yeah.
It's
It just surprises me, like considering, like, no offense, like for it being where it is, I was surprised why they
yeah.
chose that location because
Well,
it's so benign of a location to
so
have such a big Bucky's there.
so like what it is. See, here's the other thing is like we're not a lot of people when they go to Pigeon Forge or to Gatlinburg or something, it's so like it's like East Coast Vegas essentially. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's so jam packed with people, but there's like the Dixie Stampede, or well, like that's not politically correct anymore. I guess it's just the Stampede. There's the Stampede. There's Dollywood. There's all of these like flashy, like, hey, come take your family and spend a whole bunch of money to do this. We're not like that. We're like, hey, if I'm going to Gatlinburg, I'm gonna go sleep, and then I'm gonna be up in the mountains literally all day, and then I'm gonna come back out, and I'm gonna eat some really good food, and walk around and shop, and then I'm gonna go to bed. Like that's basically what I do when I'm there. Um,
So you
so
didn't
we're
hit up
not like
any like
super
the
tourist.
okay.
No, none of the touristy stuff. No, I'm an outdoors. I want to go hike. Like I want to go drive around in the mountains, and I do. I'm not.
I get it.
I don't need to drive. I'm not like I can play putt putt in Kentucky. I can do most of those things here. Like why would I
Mhm.
drive there to go spend money on that? But
Well, you could also
um
hike Kentucky mountains. You can also be in Kentucky mountains too. So why you
yeah,
gotta go to Tennessee, dog?
I don't know. It's nice. There's the you got the actual Smoky Mountains
No
National
offense, no
Park.
offense to
So
Tennessee natives. I'm just
we
saying.
I don't know, whatever. Anyways, that story got super sidetracked. So the other we got Old Smoky there in old Gatlinburg, right? So we were talking about our drinks. There is one of my favorite tea places ever. Y'all know I'm a tea snob. Um, it's called the Tea and Spice Exchange, I think is what it's called. It's in the village, little strip in Gatlinburg, and I got a couple of different teas, my wife and I both, but one of them was bourbon chestnut. It's fire. It's really, really good.
Mm.
And it's even more fire when you stopped in Old Smoky and got yourself a bottle of the straight Tennessee whiskey, which is I'm doing a little bit of both. I'm drinking my tea and I'm drinking some whiskey at the
Oh,
same
you're
time.
about to pop that seal?
So
Like, right now live on the show, or did you already do
Oh
that?
no, it's already in the bourbon
Oh,
chester
I
too.
didn't. It looked like it was not. It looked like it was still sealed.
So it's like a little bit of a hot toddy situation, but not
Oh,
at the same time.
Brad just loves heating up tea and just putting whiskey in it. Let's not beat around the bush, guys. We've probably had like 8 or 9 shows where like he's had some sort of sweet tea with whiskey in it.
100%. But
Yeah.
that's okay. It's a valid life choice.
I mean,
It
nobody's hating
really
it at
is.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for your throat. It's good for your body. Probably not really.
Yeah. I mean, well,
Whiskey. I don't
I
think
that's
whiskey's good
like
for your body,
that's
but
such like a that's
you
such like
could,
a
you could. I'm trying to say.
it's such a Kentucky thing, if that makes sense. Because like I remember I had like a sore throat once, and I had like a shit ton of people just like, "Because you don't drink enough whiskey, dude."
Drink
And I was
whiskey.
like,
Have some bourbon. Have some
"Yeah."
whiskey. Yeah,
And he's like, "This
that's
is the reason why
everybody's
you don't have
go-to.
strep. That's the reason why you don't have strep, dude. It's the reason why I don't get strep because you don't
Yeah.
drink it because I drink whiskey." And I was like, that's a dangerous mentality to go through, my guy." So whatever.
You were attacked by a coyote. Drink some whiskey.
Drink some whiskey.
Like it's like the medical solution to literally everything that ever happens. But
It's like snake oil or snake juice, whatever the fuck the thing
yeah,
was, and like
yeah. You're bitten by a
old
snake.
cowboy
Drink
thing.
some whiskey. Pour some
Yeah.
whiskey on it. Pour some whiskey on it and then drink it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good, man. I like it. I like my Old Smoky. Usually when you go in Old Smoky, you can do the tasting, and I've done the tasting before. Where you get it's like $8, $8 or $9, and you get like 12 shots or something like that of like different like half shots. It's like the little like medical like Dixie cup kind of situation. And I usually do that, but I try to get something new every time I go, and I was just like, I'm not feeling anything wild, so I just went with the straight. They're just straight whiskey, and it's good.
I know. Sometimes the flavored whiskey can get a little more, I guess, thick, if I should say.
Yeah,
You know, because some whiskeys can be like they can be like crisp or whatever.
yeah,
I'm obviously probably not using crisp in the right phrase of term, but
crisp,
you know
crisp. All you
how,
alcohol snobs, don't
yeah,
forget the fact that Miguel just talked about whiskey as being crisp,
I'm sure it's been said, but you
not
know what I'm saying.
dry, not smooth, crisp.
Eat my ass. Anyways, well, you know what I'm talking about. Whenever you have like whiskey that's like heavily flavored, or like, I know that
Yeah,
some of that's still good, but it feels so syrupy and
right.
just has too much sugar, and it
Yeah, I
just
know what you
ends up
mean.
giving you a headache if you end up like sleeping
Yeah,
overnight after drinking, and it's just like, man, I enjoy a good flavored whiskey, but over time it can get a little too much with like
I would agree.
the flavoring or whatever.
You got to
So
change it up every once in a while, and that's why there are people, especially in Kentucky. It's like Kentucky basketball. People are like super diehard about it. People are super diehard about their bourbon or their whiskey. Like they'll only ever drink the same thing, and I'm like, why? Try different. Like I would get sick of the same thing over and over and over again. I
you haven't
would.
found the right one then, dude.
Oh my gosh. Whatever. Moving on. If Godzilla drank, what kind of alcohol would he drink? Would he be a whiskey guy?
No, I think he'd be a sake guy. I think he would.
Well,
I
okay.
think Godzilla would be a
That
sake
makes sense.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Kong would be a cold beer.
Tequila.
He'd be a Bud Light.
Straight tequila.
He would be a light beer kind of guy. That's what Kong gives me.
How'd you come to that conclusion?
He just gives me light beer vibes.
Huh. Whatever. Anyways, Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. Miguel, what were your overall thoughts now that you've had a couple of weeks to stew on the movie, to stew on Godzilla and Kong's latest date? I mean, fight with each other. And
Well, I mean, I wish I could see it. I wish I got to see it a second time. Honestly, like at least in theaters. I'm sure I still do. I'm sure it's out
it's
there.
still in theaters.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like prior to this, I would have wanted to watch it again, but that's mainly because it was a lot of fun. You know, I think that with Godzilla and Kong, with this installment, it was definitely one of those films where I think it was established that they were just out there to have some fun when making this film. And I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, by any means, I was not expecting a somber, emotional, inspirational fucking story by any means. I was
Mm-hmm.
strictly expecting big monster fight, and I got that. I was fully expecting Godzilla and Kong to be on their worst behavior in this film, and they were. I mean, every single one of them stood on business. I think that this film was 100% a monster slugfest, and I give it some praise for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think this is one of those films where I think you'd be surprised. It relied heavily on the novelization of the legendary comics that they have out
Excuse me.
there. So if you didn't read much of the comics of Legendary in the first, like, I guess 5 minutes of this film, 5 or 30 minutes of this film would be a little bit confusing, but
Mm.
I mean that
Yeah,
doesn't
I don't.
take you away from the
Have you
overarching
have you actually
story.
read those?
No, I for one have not, but I do like to watch, reviews of other people, you know, perspective of it. And
Mm.
as much as people like to harp on me about that, I could care less.
Yeah,
I
yeah, you're one of those
get the
people.
information.
Miguel's the kind of guy, instead of buying a video game when it comes out, he'll just watch an entire like 9-hour playthrough of it. And he's just like, I got the story, I got what I wanted. He was like,
Yeah,
and I didn't have to actually do it. You know.
it's cheaper that way,
Um,
dude.
yeah, yeah, those GameStop prices. Yeah, it is cheaper. You're right.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm really torn on this one because I wanted this movie to have more weight than it did. I was super stoked for it, and I was super excited for it, and I was, I thought they were gonna, because we're coming off of Godzilla versus Kong, and we established the fact that Godzilla is the alpha. He is still the alpha. He can take on Kong 100%. Like, if the two of them go at it, Kong is not walking away fine. Like, he's not. He'll put up a fight, but he's not walking away fine.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, so we're throwing in another big gorilla, big monkey, go fight, monkey. Like, we're throwing in another big monkey
Not
to the
only
mix.
another, but multiply that by like fucking
Exactly.
25. Yeah.
Army of big monkeys plus large ice monster,
Yeah. Who would have
Um,
thought we got an early screening of Planet of the Apes?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, they're gonna have to make Scar King really formidable. Like, we've established that Godzilla can stop gorillas, except for this one. Like, this is gonna be, like, oh shoot, okay, he can take Godzilla. Like, I expected a little bit more of that. I I liked Scar King. I liked Shimo. I wish we would have gotten to see a little bit more of them. I think that's one of my biggest gripes about the movie is that it felt so bam, 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 done. Like, it was just, it felt so quick. None of the other Monsterverse movies felt so quick and so like rushed. It felt like we took the first 2/3 of the movie for exposition, and then it was like we tried to squeeze all of the actual like Scar King, Godzilla, Kong, Shimo moments into like the last third of the movie. And I don't know if that was a good creative choice. Like, Godzilla versus Kong, it was peppered throughout. Like we were obviously building to Godzilla and Kong fighting, and they fought in the ocean, and then they fought. They had their exposition. They both fought other monsters. They both did their thing, and then they met up again in Hong Kong, and then they fought there, and then we had the whole Mecha Godzilla fiasco when that happened. And I that felt like we got enough of it peppered throughout. This was just it was all so quick. I feel like even the final fight between the four of them when they're in Rio, it was just like that was it. Like that, like we saw the entire fight scene basically in all of the trailers. Like, you could take the video of Kong and Godzilla fighting Scar King from the trailers and probably edit it, and it would be nearly as long as what we got in the film.
Yeah.
And I don't. I'm not necessarily complaining about the amount of time we saw Godzilla and Kong, because I think this had the most time we saw Godzilla and Kong, right? Or am I mistaken? No, maybe for
No.
Kong, not Godzilla though. Not Godzilla.
Yeah. This is the most we saw. No, I'm sure we've seen. This is probably about as equal as time we've seen Kong in like any of his other two movies.
What
But
about G
this
though?
was the less. This is the less. I think there was like I think it was like a couple minutes or so less screen time that we got of Godzilla in this film as
Mm,
opposed to
okay.
all the others, which I wasn't
Mm.
surprised, considering
Yeah.
that this was going to be a more Kong centric story. And first off, don't come over here and fucking complain about like
Oh, here we go.
80% of the movie being like exposition and then like 20% being monster fights. Like, bro, that's how like every fucking kaiju movie's been for the
I know.
past like 80 years.
I
So
think it's when
like,
it comes to the balance though. Like I don't. I liked the story with the girl. What's her name? I have the cast list pulled up. I told Miguel I'm always terrible about this. Gia.
that's okay.
I
Much
liked the
much of
story
these
between
films, I don't really remember the names either.
Gia and Dr. Andrews was cool. I liked that. That was solid. I enjoyed it. But the whole thing with the tribe and like it here's the thing with with Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters. It felt like we were learning about what was happening with the Titans through the humans, but the humans were also learning it too. The humans had there were stakes for the humans as well as for the Titans. Like the stakes felt real and large, and we were seeing it through the humans excuse me, through the humans eyes more. I can't get rid of this cough. I've been trying for weeks. We've been, we're seeing it through the humans eyes more. With this film, it just felt like all of the exposition was just like the people narrating what was happening. Like it all felt so easy. Like so overly simplified. Like Kong getting the glove. The glove thing was awesome in the trailers. I was kind of excited for how he was going to get it.
Yeah, I thought that was too, yeah.
But the dude was just like, the vet dude was just like, wait, I'll be right back, and left and immediately showed back up, and Kong had a glove. Like, it's so easy. And it doesn't feel like they have to, like, the humans have to work for the story. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I get it. Like, the Monsterverse stuff is a catch-22 because if you spend too much time on the people, then the monster battle stuff, which is what you're really there for, suffers. But if the human story isn't all that great and it's just kind of simple and like it just feels really kind of like glossy and it's just kind of like shiny and there's no real emotional stakes to it. It doesn't hold the same weight. Like the monster fights don't hold the same weight. So I think you have to find a perfect balance between the two. And I think still to this day, I told Miguel this when we walked out of the theater. Godzilla King of the Monsters has the best balance of any of the movies between the monster stuff, between the human stuff. Like I remember actually, like when we saw that in the theater, I actually remember feeling like, oh my god, like at the point when Madison's house is destroyed and when her mom is looking up at Ghidorah and she says long live the king, like they're like those emotional moments with the people felt better, felt more genuine. The human story just feels sloppy
Mhm.
and really in the last couple of films. And a lot of it has to do with Hollow Earth. I'm not entirely sold on the whole Hollow Earth storyline. I'm just not.
Yeah.
It's
Honestly,
cool,
personally, I think
and I
Hollow Earth does seem a little
I
cheap.
dig it. It just like we went from Godzilla 2014 with like you're seeing the rise of these creatures through the lens of everyday people, everyday citizens and governments and things like that. And they're freaking out because they, like there's these 300-foot tall creatures that are now emerging and fighting each other to the death, like in Boston, and it's you're seeing it through their perspective. You're seeing even in Monarch, you know. I haven't watched Monarch all the way through, but I've seen like the San Francisco scene. I've seen a lot of the Godzilla scenes and things like that in it. And like you're seeing them battle Godzilla in San Francisco from humans' perspective. And you're seeing infrastructure fail all around you, and you're seeing this intense battle and guns and explosions and people screaming and running, and it's like we're lacking that. Like it doesn't. Godzilla and Kong does not feel like a monster movie. It feels like you're watching a cartoon. It really does. It does. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's bad. It really sounds like I'm just dogging on it right now. I did enjoy the movie. I honestly did. I was talking to my dad about this. He was like, you haven't really talked, because my cousin went and saw it, and you and I went and saw it, and he hasn't seen it yet. And he was like, so be honest with me, man, how was Godzilla and Kong? And I was like, it was all right. Like, it was good. You'll like it. I mean, my dad's the kind of guy where he's just like, I want to see big monsters go fight. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, if that's what you go in wanting, you're going to be satisfied. You'll never be satisfied. Like, you'll you'll be satisfied if you go see that, right? But he was like, you don't sound like too hype about it. And I was like, I am. Like, it was, I liked it. I wanted more from it. And it's not that I wanted more monster battles. I thought the monster stuff was awesome. I loved every bit of the monster battle stuff. But I wanted more stakes, and I wanted more out of the storyline than we got. It just felt, like the veterinary guy dangling from a like the Avengers jet, like the Quinjet, to change Kong's tooth or to pull his rotting tooth. Like, just stuff like that just felt really like, it just felt really weird. Even going back, I actually rewatched Kong Skull Island a little bit ago to kind of prep for this. And if you'd have told me watching that movie that 3 movies later we would be watching a human vet pull one of Kong's infected teeth, I'd have been like, really? Like, because Kong seemed like such a badass in that movie. I don't know. It's
And
what I'm
Godzilla
saying
versus
valid.
Kong?
No, in Kong Skull Island. Like, do you
Oh.
see what I'm saying with that though? Like, I wanted it to be a little bit more serious than it did. I don't know, man. I have very mixed feelings about this one. And I don't know why. Like, I wish I didn't. I wish I looked back on, and maybe if I saw it again it would change my opinion, but I wish I looked back on it with more reverence than I do. So that's kind of my overall, without getting into specific plot details, that's kind of my overall thoughts on the whole thing.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be the one to, like, hark or, like, disregard your opinions on the film. I mean, they're valid. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that, believe the same way that you're thinking right now. But I mean, when it came down to this film, I mean, I already knew what we were going to get.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to harp on things that were lacking, which in part was the human aspect of it. Because I think what made people more attracted to this film was the, like, wonders of these quote unquote titans and this legendary franchise. But when it came down to Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire, it truly felt, at least in my eyes, the original 1970s Showa period, where it was people in costumes literally hitting each other. And as cheap as you guys may feel that be, at least with this film, I was completely content with seeing that, because I knew that's pretty much how it was being portrayed. It was like, that's all this is gonna be, is like Hollow Earth, meaning no people were gonna be around, and these monsters literally just slug it out. No ifs, ands, and buts about worrying about other people. And I was like, okay, cool. So I know exactly what I'm going to be getting.
Yeah.
So it was just, and yeah, there were some things in this film that like, felt cheap. I mean, but it's funny that you mentioned that you didn't like Dan Stevens' character because I actually enjoyed his character. I thought it was pretty interesting.
But again, it's not that black and white. It's not that. It's not. I liked the character.
Hmm.
It's. Here's a perfect way to explain it. I like the word cheap. You said cheap a minute ago. I like the characters, but what they're doing feels cheap. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I
Yeah.
kind of felt the same. I,
But you're
I
talking
felt
about things. You're talking about things that like the glove or like pulling the teeth out, and those are like moments. Those are cheap moments, but they're not supposed to
I
be like
know. I know. I
the
know. It's
overarching big thing. Like
I
the
know.
humans are not necessarily like the big thing. It's just the thing that the humans are giving is supposed to be the big thing, if that makes sense. Because
But
like there are
mm,
things like in all these other films,
mm,
like you think of like the Super X3 and Godzilla versus Destroyer, or fucking Mogera and Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, or even the fucking Kotengo and like Final Wars. Like these are not things that are like you could see the humans like building. It's just like, oh hey, by the way, we have this, so let's put it in there in the fucking
we
field.
have this.
It's literally how
Yeah.
they explain it. They
I
literally
get
be
it.
like, there's they when they mention the Super X3, they're like, send out the Super X3, and there's like the Super X3, and then boom, you have like a quick 30-second arching story of like what the Super X3 is. Never
Did we?
mind how they got there or why they built a device to do that. But it just so happens that the Japanese government has it, so they decided to throw it in there. So like it's just one of those things that's like I'm not surprised by like the cheap aspects that they're like giving Kong a fucking mechanical arm or they're giving Kong a silver tooth. It's like, yeah, it pretty much adds up. It follows what I would expect in a normal kaiju movie. So like it's and I think one thing that I think a lot of people appreciated was think of it like as like in Pacific Rim, where like we have these giant kaijus attacking towns. Like you're and like you what Guillermo del Toro did to like talk about the human aspect of and how they were able to first build walls to
Mm-hmm.
stop these monsters. But obviously that didn't work, so they decided to build monsters themselves, which is honestly for us say a cold ass line for them to build their own Jaegers. So like I'm sure you enjoyed that overarching story of them like humans trying to struggle living with the titans that we have among us, so they create these Jaegers.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came, but so let's go back to like Godzilla 2014, where you had people finally see Godzilla for who he is, and
Right.
you see how like menacing and how massive he is, and makes you feel very small. So obviously the government is trying to do everything they can to, you know, be at the top of the apex predator. And it's
Yeah.
literally what happened with Godzilla King of the Monsters when they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we have this thing called the Oxygen Destroyer." Never
Did they
mind the
explain that at
history.
all? That's what I
Yeah,
was going to
never
ask you a minute ago.
yeah,
Did
never
we?
mind the history of what it is. They just threw it in
Oh,
there.
we.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
we
have this.
have this thing, and we're going to
Yeah.
use it to try. Okay.
Yeah, and that was
That's
in the
fair.
film that
That's
you
fair.
that you enjoyed the most because it had human interactions. But like those are things that you're gonna see in these kaiju films. Like we don't really care necessarily about like the human contributions to the film because all we wanted to see is the big monsters go after each other. That's
I'm
pretty
gonna.
much why.
I'm gonna challenge you on this a little bit. So here. Okay. It's again. It's not. I don't love King of the Monsters because it had human interaction. I think the human interaction was valuable. Like what the humans were doing was valuable. It's not it's not the fact that they gave Kong the glove. I like the glove. I think that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
the tooth thing when like the whole trading like when his tooth is injured and he knocks out Scar King's tooth is like the like bet back and forth moment. I was like, hey, like that was a cool moment. It just it's like it's getting there like that just it's about the journey not the destination getting there just feels cheap like And you said something a minute ago about the humans, like and making the monsters feel bigger and kind of making it feel more grandiose. I think that's what made Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla King of the Monsters so much more effective as a monster movie, because you're seeing these titans fight each other from the human's perspective. Even I don't even just mean like physically. I mean even in scenes where, like in Monarch, the bridge scene in San Francisco, when she falls back and looks up and there's an explosion and Godzilla turns his head and he's roaring, or seeing Godzilla and Ghidorah fight from underneath, like seeing them run at each other, like moments like that. Like I'm missing moments like that, and it just doesn't feel as grandiose because we're not seeing it from the human's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I
I
think
get that.
I that's what I'm missing. I'm missing the stuff with the humans is not the point. But the stuff with the humans can give the monster fights more weight, because you're seeing, like, as a human being, you're seeing the implications of what they're doing from a human being's perspective. Like, I mean, think about how, like, devastating that would be. Like, dog, I've seen a few people talk about this. That Rio fight at the end, they can sit and say Godzilla and Kong saved us all they want. They straight up killed millions of people in that fight. 100%.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Like,
Like, how are you going to have a situation where it's from the human's perspective when you have two giant, no, not two, but three giant monkeys jumping around Rio? How do you see a fight and have it be a good scene with three different monkeys jumping around
it's
fighting two
it's
lizards?
it's little moments though. It's seeing,
Which
even
is, which I'll say this: the perspective of Godzilla and Shimu, pushing each other through the building, and you get it from the below perspective of of the humans. It's a cool shot,
it
but
is.
from a matter of showing everything, it's really hard. And I agree what you're saying right now, because it's you what you're like expressing right now is literally why they had the 89, I think it was 89 or 85, I don't remember. It was like the Return of Godzilla. That film right
Mhm.
there was in reaction to what you're saying, where Godzilla doesn't feel grandiose, or the monsters don't feel grandiose or scary anymore. Because prior you had the show period where it was pretty much just giant Muppets fighting each other on some dirt.
Giant Muppets
So
fighting each other. I love it.
so like so for you, so what you're expressing right now does not surprise me in the slightest, because it's literally what people were complaining about during that time period. You were just
Hmm.
circling back to the same old arguments. It's just cool now that we're not seeing giant Muppets do it. We're seeing
Right.
really good
Right.
CGI
Right.
monsters do it, duking it out. And I think that's really cool, because it's almost as if like a new generation has experienced exactly what the original generation of people who love the film. So yeah, I agree. Like at some point, and I think Wingard said this in an interview like soon after this film was released. He says, "Don't worry, like if he was to be given another sequel, he would make it much more not dark but more serious of a film." So like, and that's what I love about Godzilla and all these kaiju films, because
It can be both.
it can be both for whatever you want.
Right.
So, and it's shown right here, because like with both 2014 and Skull Island and King of the Monsters, like we can do serious, crazy, and um what's the word I'm thinking of, like epic, I suppose. But we can also do fun and
Yeah.
exciting, and just all out brawl,
Right.
like
Right.
GVK and GXK. Like that's why I'm not surprised by either of them being as um over the top as they are now. So
Yeah.
because I'll agree the way the way humans pretty much stepped up from having a giant B-52 bomber carrying their people, in King of the Monsters, to having levitating Hueys powered by the Middle Earth
Yeah.
in one film surprises the fuck out of me too. But it's that type of stuff that's like that doesn't surprise
Yeah.
me at all, because literally it went from having Mechagodzilla help, like, just imagine this: 1992, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. Godzilla beats Mechagodzilla, and then in the next film they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we have Mogira because we've rebuilt them from Mechagodzilla 2. We just happened to do that, in the next 4 years after
Yeah.
Mechagodzilla was destroyed." And I was like, "Oh,
He was on deck.
cool,
Like, yeah.
yeah, like cool, like where'd that come
Mm.
from?" And Godzilla versus King Ghidorah in
Right.
94, 93 or four. Um, Godzilla defeats King Ghidorah, but then the space time travelers went back in time and rebuilt King Ghidorah into Mega King Ghidorah to fight Godzilla. And like
Yeah.
the span of like an hour and a half of the fights. So Godzilla literally defeated King Ghidorah. An hour and a half to 2 hours later, he comes back as Mega King Ghidorah because of time travelers. So like it's like that type of like quick, like out of the over the top like human interactions. It's no
Yeah.
surprise. It's literally a kaiju film, because that's just what kaiju films have. So
Right. I
yeah,
I should shut my mouth because
no, you
as
shouldn't.
a
I mean,
horror fan, I know I'm being super picky. I enjoyed the movie. I did. I give the movie like a 7.5 out of 10.
yeah,
Like
he
I
hasn't even talked about like
genuinely
the
I
story itself yet.
genuinely enjoyed it. It just I think in terms of like the I don't want to say seriousness, but in terms of like the weight of it, the weight of the story just didn't feel like it was there. And that's okay. Like I get that, I get it's a Showa era inspired piece, and I get that it's supposed to kind of fit into that thing. And I'm here for that. Like I respect the hell out of that. I fully expect I like or respect. I liked Adam Wingard. I like the dude. I think he's a great horror filmmaker. I think he's a great Monsterverse filmmaker. I hope he gets his next film. I really do. Um, I
I
just
just
that
hope he
it's
and I like I don't want to like keep slashing on Brad, but I mean like I hope Adam Wingard does do a more serious film, because as fun as this film was, if they want to like push whatever story they want to push or whatever plans they have, like I'd imagine they'd want to go to like a more serious note, and
right.
that's kind of how I expect it to be. I mean, he
Yeah.
said himself like this design of Godzilla is not going to be the now forever like uh design of him. Like he's not staying this design forever. So he'll probably revert back to his original,
Right.
chunky
The
boy
blue. Yeah.
stance. Yeah.
Mr. Chunk.
Which
Yeah.
which I think they said, which was really cool. I think they said it was like inspired by Dragon Ball Z, like
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Goku's
cool.
like Super Saiyan. I forgot what it was, but it's Super Saiyan like mode or whatever. So it was really cool to have that like inspiration to
Mhm.
Godzilla, because it kind of matches up to what happens in the old in multiple different franchise or multiple different eras of Godzilla. Like he
Right.
gets
Right.
a superpower or he gets a boost up or something like that in some
Mhm.
random film that helps him out at the end. So it's really cool to like see him get this power up and see how he gets it. And that's one of the things that I was really excited for in this film. I mean, yeah, I was excited for Kong and doing his stuff and getting the glove and all that. But I was really excited to see how Godzilla, gets his power up, because it's
Leveled up.
just yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like when you watch, Dragon Ball Z and you watch Goku, you continue to train to get to his next Super
Right.
Saiyan level or his next Ultra Instinct power up. So it's like it's one of those things where I enjoy.
Yeah.
Godzilla is my
It's
Dragon Ball.
funny.
is what
I'm
I'm
not
trying
an
to say.
anime. I'm not an anime person, but like I saw that interview or that clip where Adam Wingard said that they inspired, Godzilla's look was inspired by Dragon Ball Z. The movie kind of feels like an anime thing.
Yeah, it
It
does, doesn't it?
really does. Now that we're actually saying that out loud, I'm like,
And
it
if you've
feels like
seen
an
an
anime
anime,
movie. It does.
it's over the top.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
Yeah.
not grounded in reality. So,
What I was saying before, I should shut my mouth because as a horror fan, like take Halloween. I'm a big Halloween fan. People, complain all the time about how they changed the franchise and how, we got Michael's backstory and then the Cult of Thorn thing and then this and that and I always tell people, I'm like, look, man, like the Halloween franchise, yes, it changed a lot over time, but if you want super uber serious, it's literally just a dude and like a crazy person who's
mhm,
escaped a mental institution in a mask. Go watch H1 and H2. Like
mhm.
if you like the Cult of Thorn supernatural aspect to it, like go watch the Thorn trilogy in 4, 5, and 6. And it's the same thing with this. If you want super serious uber story Godzilla, watch Godzilla and Kong Skull Island and King of the Monsters. But if you want to see big monster go fight, big lizard and big monkey go fight, like watch GXK and GVK. Like I can respect that. I can. I don't want it to stay that way forever. I don't. It just. I think it
No, I
feels.
think it'll
I
get
think
old quick.
it's easy to feel like we started so good and so serious, and we've just like watered it down to this point.
Hmm.
But again, I think if Adam Wingard does get his next film, and I hope he does, this whole conversation has not been a dig at Adam Wingard in the film he made. I know it sounds super negative, but I don't mean it in a negative critical context. It's just an observation, and it's my personal flavor and like what I want to see in a kaiju movie.
Hmm.
But I hope the next film is more serious, and I hope they continue to make them. I mean, I don't want him to stop. Like I really enjoy it. I mean, I think go back through our channel since our channel's inception. I mean, the
Hmm.
third episode we ever did was about our predictions for Godzilla versus Kong and the trailer reactions and the nonstop Monsterverse conversations. I mean, the Monsterverse has been a really, really big part of Let's Talk Movies, since day one. It has been. So, um, and it goes back. We've told this story before, but after Miguel and I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters in theaters, he and I sat in the movie theater parking lot for like going on 3 hours talking about the Monsterverse and about those two characters and like their legacy and kind of where Godzilla versus Kong was going to go, because at that point it had been announced and we knew that that was going to happen from the post credit scene. I mean, it's been a big part of our channel, and it's been a big part of our lives. Always being a big King Kong fan, Miguel always being a big Godzilla fan. Um, so yeah, this is. I don't want it to sound like this has been a super negative take on Godzilla
No, he
X
fucking
Kong
hates
or
his film,
Godzilla
man.
and Kong.
Don't get it
Yeah,
twisted.
yeah. Because the overwhelm. I mean, it's actually been a really positive response to it. Like even I mean, I don't know what it's got on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Let me look.
It's like 56.
Well, I meant the audience. Who cares about the critic score? Nobody cares about the critic
Well,
score.
if you look at it right now, here's what I'll say.
I'm trying to find it.
Look at the
What's
audience
up?
score. I think it's the highest one.
Yeah, it's got a 91% audience score.
So that
The
tells
tom-
me that your opinion fucking sucks.
okay, here's the thing.
Because
First of all, if we're talking Rotten Tomatoes, nobody ever pays attention to the critic score. Like,
yeah.
let's just be
Well,
honest
no,
with
I'm talking
ourselves.
about the
Nobody
audience score
does.
still too. Like I'm talking about the
But
audience
it's at a
score.
91. It's at a 91% right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know people are there for big monster go fight. 100% they are. I'm me too, to an extent, but I also want to see a good story told too. Like the story's
Mm-hmm.
got to have some meat and potatoes to it as well. And I
Well,
think
look,
that's
this is what
where
the audience says. Let me say this, and I agree with the audience what they're saying. With fantastic effects and plenty of action, Godzilla X Kong: New Empire has everything you're looking for from a kaiju adventure.
right.
It's literally what you're expecting. Like if
I'm
you
with
want
you.
like espionage, like secrecy of humans interacting with monsters, go watch Monarch, like the series, and go
Mm,
watch Godzilla 2014, or go watch King of the Monsters. Like you're gonna get that. But
yeah.
if you just want a good old kaiju adventure, like Godzilla X Kong is your go to. Which,
Yeah.
and for me to assume, like if they were gonna push anything towards more with Hollow Earth, which I assume is what they're gonna like, push more on.
Hmm.
The next three movies I can think of are just gonna be the exact same what you're seeing right now, like just giant over the top um kaiju adventures of just random stuff that's happening. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think once you see my ranking, I think it'll prove that I'm not like I'm not being a hater of it. I'm really not. I just I've talked enough about that. Let's talk about what we did like. I really liked um nothing about no, I'm kidding. I really enjoyed the monster stuff, like genuinely. I every time we saw Godzilla or Kong on screen, I had a smile on my face. Like seeing Godzilla curled up like a cat in the Coliseum was dope. Seeing him swimming through the ocean, jumping off of the thing in Rio where there's the statue of Jesus. I don't know what that's called, but where he jumps off of that, like that, all of that was dope. You know what I mean? Um, like the Godzilla stuff that we got to see was really cool. The Kong stuff that we got to see was really cool. The monster fights, I'll tell you what I really like. Speaking of Godzilla, I like that we push the narrative in this film of like, because do you remember we had a conversation about this? A lot of the early reviews for Godzilla X Kong were that like, you know, it's like they're embracing what Godzilla does. You know what I mean? Instead of like looking at him as the monster, which is weird because in Godzilla versus Kong you had what's his face? Godzilla's hurting people and we don't know why.
mhm.
Bro is a 300-foot lizard that breathes fire. What do you mean you don't know why? Like, if he farts wrong, he's hurting somebody, you know? So, like, I think that's where
Well,
I
that's
like that we push the narrative that Godzilla he's just trying to remain the alpha. He's just trying to assert dominance. That's literally, he's not protecting anybody. He's not protecting humans. He's not protecting other monsters. He's not protecting Earth. He's literally just trying to remain the alpha.
well.
That's it.
Here's what I'll say. This is where the novelization is like really like important, I guess, because if you were to read the novelization, you'd understand that like Godzilla, and I think it's just in general, like Serizawa established already, like Godzilla is like the protector. He is the one who established balance in the
Right.
film, in the world. And when Godzilla became King of the Monsters and King of the Monsters, he was pretty much establishing himself as like the alpha.
Hmm.
And as alpha, he is able to manage the balance of everything on Earth, and
Right.
that goes for every kaiju then wherever it's sitting or wherever it's residing. So that's why when you had the fight with Godzilla and Scylla and France or Rome, I don't fucking remember, but when
Which
you had
one
the
was
first
Scylla? You
fight,
got to remind me.
the giant spider,
The spot. Okay. That
okay,
was dope. That was a really cool
which
fight
was
scene.
really dope. But people were surprised why Godzilla even attempted, or Godzilla even like destroyed Scylla, but it's because Scylla was not acting in balance with
Right.
what Godzilla wanted. So Godzilla obviously had to be the one to put him down because he is
Yeah.
alpha. Because the second Scylla thought he could, stand rival to Godzilla, Godzilla had to put his shit down. So that's where Godzilla just automatically stands on business. The second a monster feels like he
Dude, he
is
really
the
did in this
alpha,
movie.
yeah,
He
like it was like
every minute of every day he was ready to take somebody down.
pretty
Like
much. And the second Scylla decided that he was not wanting to be under Godzilla's foot, Godzilla had to put him down.
yeah.
The same went for Tiamat, the giant sea monster in the Arctic. Godzilla just wanted to chill over there with Tiamat and get his power up, but Tiamat had an attitude
Mm.
and
Really?
yeah,
I
strike
thought he was
something
going
up.
to kill him regardless.
No, he was going to just like gain some power up or whatever. But
Oh, okay.
obviously Tiamat just wasn't about that life because, Tiamat wants his home stuff too. So Godzilla
Mm.
had to put him down too. So that's pretty much what that's entailing because like prior to in the what's it called? In the novelization or the comics, there were two instances where Godzilla fought with Scylla and Tiamat, and it was pretty much Godzilla like fighting them, but letting them live, but just reminding them like, hey, I am Alpha. You stay in this area and you don't fuck with the
Yeah.
humans in this area. But if you don't follow what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna fuck you up. And humans are the same way. Godzilla will fuck up the humans if they do something that's out of balance. Because there was a panel where the humans were trying to like kill these monsters or capture these monsters, and Godzilla
Mm.
was like, calm your shit down. You guys are humans. Don't even bother trying to do it. So he
Mm.
put the hurt on them.
He's
So
he's not partial to any. The
he's
only
not
one he's
partial to
partial to
anything.
is
Is
himself.
the
Like
balance
Godzilla
to
is literally an embodiment of nature, essentially.
yes.
Like,
He holds the true balance of nature in this world.
and I really like that. Like,
Yeah.
I genuinely, I think that's like the best. If you're gonna give Godzilla a take or like a motive, like I think that's the best version of what
Mhm.
that looks like.
And it
And
makes it
and it's weird because like again, it's like kind of not at the same time. Humans, because like, do you remember even in at the end of Godzilla 2014, there was like on the TV at the end when it's showing Godzilla walk out into the ocean after the final like Muto fight,
yeah.
it says like Godzilla savior of our city question mark, and it's like, he's not doing it to save you. Like
hmm
that's not, like he's not like, oh, I got to protect humans. Like we obviously saw in this movie, he was in France when he was absorbing all the nuclear energy.
hmm
Bro is not trying to protect humans.
Bro does not
Like
care. Bro
he
does not
straight
care
up
in the slightest.
threw hands with the humans like
hmm
immediately after they questioned him.
Yeah.
But um but I like that take of like he just balances the natural world,
hmm
essentially. Like that is his purpose. Like that's all he does.
Yeah.
And
And the second he
humans
feels
just
that it's
happen to kind of benefit off of what he does. Like
Mhm,
one of my favorite lines in Godzilla and Kong the New Empire was when somebody, it was when they were at the Monarch thing. It was right before they were like, oh, Kong never comes out of Hollow Earth. Bro immediately like stuck his hand up and came up when his tooth was hurting and he
mhm,
needed the Titan dentist. Um, but they were talking about Godzilla and they were, talking about the other Titans and things like that. And somebody questioned Godzilla and questioned what he was doing. And that lady with Monarch was like, yeah, but he's up here fighting all of the battles that we can't. Like
mhm,
we would be toast without Godzilla, essentially.
mhm.
And I think that's kind of,
Are you
I
talking
would
about the
like to
news
see,
reporter?
maybe somebody
Yeah,
said that.
it
I
was like
thought it
some
was the Monarch lady.
I thought it was like some like it was like some news thing or whatever, and they're talking about like how Godzilla resides on top of Earth and Kong resides in the bottom, and like that's why Kong doesn't come back up because Godzilla rules up here, and that's why because he's over here taking care of all the monsters.
No, it wasn't that. This was different. Like they
Oh.
explicitly, like it was somebody who explicitly like called out Godzilla and like questioned like why they don't, because there was this, they kind of planted this seed of like governments are disagreeing with each other on how to handle Godzilla. Like
hmm
some of them are like, hey, let him do his thing. Like he ain't hurting anybody. It's like if
hmm
he's gonna leave us alone, like let him keep all the other Titans in check. That way we
And
don't
that
have
was
to
a
try.
and that's been a common trend of like the government not liking Godzilla because back in
Like
King of the
France,
Monsters,
like when we saw when he was absorbing the nuclear energy and they
hmm
attacked him. Like, what are you
yeah,
doing?
like France has stated that like he needs to like get out because
Yeah.
he's fucking with us. And if he does anything, we're gonna retaliate, and that's when
Right.
like the whole nuclear plant. But like the same thing with like the U.S. government whenever Sarazawa was answering to the government about what to do with Godzilla, and Sarazawa was pretty much just saying like nothing. We would be
Nothing.
his pet.
Yeah.
We wouldn't make him ours. We would be
Yeah.
his because he is like the true embodiment of like balance.
Talk to
So
Sarazawa. What do we do about the Godzilla problem? Leave him
nothing.
alone.
Yeah.
Like, don't touch
And like
him.
that's all you can do. Because as long as nature is in balance, Godzilla can rest. And that's the whole point of why Godzilla is so ferocious, is because every single time the world is not in balance, Godzilla has to wake up and put it in
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a funny thing, like it showed in one of the comments, it showed Godzilla like waking up, like because something was like unbalanced in the world, and it said he's not even like fully like rested, and I was like, he's not even fully rested. Like my man literally is like half asleep, kicking these monsters' ass and kicking government's ass left and right, and just to go to bed, but only to wake up almost immediately because the world's unbalanced
I
again.
know. Yeah.
It's like it's pretty much Godzilla throwing a temper tantrum because he's not getting any sleep.
Yeah. Literally every single time like one of those titans would move, he was like
Bet.
bro's eyes would shoot open. Like
Yeah. Like the second he thinks something is happening, he wakes up and he's like, "Fuck, I gotta do this."
when
Because
Kong came up out of Hollow Earth and roared and Godzilla like ran across
bro,
Egypt to run in.
he ran all the way from Egypt to like I don't know where the fuck he, but
Well, he ran
apparently
to Egypt
they
from
they drew a map out of how
yeah.
far he ran. And I was like, my man was on a mission, which I'll agree. Because like with Godzilla, I think the reason why Godzilla and Kong always had that first initial like bout is because Kong wasn't willing to submit to Godzilla's rule as opposed to all the other monsters. So
When?
for
When?
like
Are you
Godzilla versus
talking in
Kong.
that movie? Oh, okay. I thought you
Like
meant
with Godzilla,
a
the whole
specific
reason why
battle.
they don't like each other is because Kong just doesn't submit to it. Kong is
Yeah.
more self autonomy than all the other monsters.
Yeah.
So like Godzilla doesn't like that because it puts unbalance
Right.
in the nature. So Godzilla has to balance it. So that's why him and Kong
Right.
always had a bout. So
Kong is
that's
like
just
Kong's like literally just leave me alone. That's
yeah,
all I
Kong
want.
is purely like leave me alone, but Godzilla was like, you won't bend the knee, so I have to kick your
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why when the whole thing happened with like Godzilla versus Kong, whenever they had that screaming match, like that was pretty much just Kong like bending the knee, at least at that moment,
Yeah.
and like giving Godzilla the crown. So it just yeah, like Godzilla is purely just the balance of everything. So I think that when it came down with Godzilla dealing with Scar King in this film, I think it was interesting for him to end up having to go. I think that's why people were concerned with why Godzilla was doing these things and trying to get more and more power.
Right.
But it's because he notices that there's an imbalance coming.
Yeah.
Like he can
Yeah.
feel something happening that
Mm-hmm.
he knows he needs to be ready for. And lo and behold, like it was whenever Scar King was plotting to come back up to the earth.
Right.
But let me ask you this. When it came down to like Scar King, because I know that's like the big bad, and they like talk highly of how he's supposed to be like the worst of the worst. Did you feel that he was as formidable as Mecha Godzilla or King Ghidorah or even the Mutus? Like, did you feel like he was much as formidable as of an enemy as everyone else? Because if I had to rank the monsters, I would still say King Ghidorah is top tier, like
Yeah.
evil for and the most formidable opponent to Godzilla.
I would agree. I think he I think he was to an extent like when Kong first walked into like the volcano pit arena whatever his lair is
That was his
um
prison.
and he had like dude had gorilla slaves, and dude, he pulled an alpha and dude had like monkey heads on spikes. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he was pretty barbaric, and I liked that.
Hmm.
I wish that he would have put up a little bit more of a fight against, like, even like without Shimo. Like, I understand it was supposed to be a parallel, like the Shimo Godzilla thing and the Kong
Hmm.
Scar King thing. I just I wish that, like, I would have liked to have seen Scar King really put up a fight against Godzilla. Like, really, like, challenge Godzilla. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
be like, oh, this is new. Like, okay, he's much more agile. He has the whip. He has like all of those things. So
But
yes and
Godzilla
no.
straight
I
up looked
mean,
at those things and was like, "Look, bitch."
yeah,
You know.
yeah. And I think that's another way that it felt kind of easy. Like I think Scar King. I imagine him as being a little bit more formidable than he was, and I liked
Hmm.
him. He was very sinister. He was the most sinister, I think, of any of the villains. You know, but in terms of like actual formidable villain. I mean, yeah, Gator. I mean, even Rodan was, more so than Scar King. I mean,
Hmm.
I think Scar King's personality. That's a good way to put it. Scar King's personality is the most sinister of any of them. You know, but I don't think that. I don't know. Physicality wise, he didn't put up quite as much of a fight as I would have liked. But
No, I didn't think so either. And I think that's primarily why people were more thrown off with whenever they said Scar King was probably the most formidable opponent. And I think
mm,
the reason why he's the most formidable is because he had his army of gorillas and his companion or slave
right,
of
without
Shimu.
that,
He was just
yeah,
another angry monkey. And Godzilla was able to make easy work of him, same as he was able to make easy work of Kong.
yeah,
So, which made me think, which made us like both think that if Kong was able to deal with Scar King by himself, why would Godzilla feel like he was like a
exactly.
dangerous threat? And I think that's the point of this film because it's
Mm,
trying to continue to solidify the fact that like Godzilla really is the essence of balancing nature.
right, right.
Because if you were to see like with the way Kong had to get Godzilla, Kong had to like go to Earth and pretty much unbalance the scale, thus making Godzilla go down there to like thus making Godzilla like lose his shit and go after Kong.
Hmm.
And like when it comes to Godzilla, as much as I like to think Godzilla has his own mind, Godzilla is pushed by the idea of having to balance. So anytime he saw Kong, it was like you need to die. Like I don't care, you need to die or bend the knee, and that's just how Godzilla
Yeah,
like acts. So
right.
anytime he feels like there's like a threat to his world, he has to take it out.
Hmm.
Which is why whenever Godzilla and Kong finally had that buddy cop moment and they get shot down to Hollow Earth, which I'll say this is
That
probably
was
without
dope.
a doubt one of my favorite scenes
Yeah,
of the film
that was really dope.
was them being shot down and like you could see Scar King's reaction to
Right.
Godzilla's roar when he got shot in because it was like the second he landed into Hollow Earth, I mean Godzilla was
Scar
just
Scar King was like, damn.
damn,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
So it was just one of those things. It's like the second they both landed, they got up and they just started running. They just said, "Yes,
yeah.
now it's time for action." Like Godzilla just stood on absolute business. Godzilla didn't know where he was or what he was doing or how he got there. All he knew was monkeys need to die. That's it. That's all he knew.
Did you like? I saw a few people that were like, it was really strange seeing Godzilla full on like sprinting. Did you think it was weird seeing him like run like that?
It was a little bit, but I didn't mind it. It made it seem fun right there. At that
He's
point, it
so
was just
thick.
fun.
That's what's like funny about it is like,
Yeah.
bro's legs are like, mm, I don't even know. There's not even a comparison. Like, but he just I don't know. It was kind of funny seeing him do that. I will say, Kong jumping and hanging onto the spines, that was dope. That was sick.
Yeah.
Like, I
It was
genuinely
the
enjoyed that.
it was the slow motion of them jumping like to fight each other. It was just cool. It was just one of
Yeah,
those moments. It was like, wow, we really have come this far
yeah.
to finally have these two famous characters, together on screen again, just fighting
He
a
was.
common
I
enemy.
just thought of it. We talked about how far he had to run. He was in. He was in Rome, wasn't he? He was curled up in the Colosseum when Kong came out of Hollow Earth.
Oh,
Like he
is that
ran
what
from
happened?
Italy. He ran from Italy to Egypt, which is that it's still far away, but it's not like he ran across the globe. I mean, but he still like that. So he ran from like Italy to the northern tip of Africa in like 6 seconds to go. I That scene though, I love that because Kong was trying, man. Like he was
Mhm,
trying to get him to stop for a
mhm.
minute. And like you said, G was just on business. Like he was like,
Yeah,
"Bro, I told you not to. Bro, I told you not to do this again. I warned you. I warned you
yeah,
what was gonna happen." Bro was running at him. The way Kong threw up his hands, like right before he got tackled, was like, "My
yeah,
brother in Christ, stop! Like, stop!
yeah.
Like, please!" And then
Like
he
he
tackled
was
him. Whatever.
remembering the beatdown that he had prior. Like he
Yeah,
remembers
yeah,
almost dying, and he was like, I don't know what to do." So it was that was a funny it was a funny like Hulkbuster versus like Hulk moment
right.
because it was literally like Kong trying to like either like talk to him down or just kick his or like knock him out to the
Yeah.
point where like he can like get him into the portal. And I think it's as much people like hate people want to keep like saying like, "Oh God, Kong's still better." So Kong's obviously better than Godzilla because he was able to beat Godzilla. It's like, no, yeah, sure, whatever. At that moment,
Not
like,
really. Not
yeah,
really. Like, well, I
it
thought it
just,
was funny though. What so like because if you go back at like I've gone back and watched that scene on YouTube, Kong wasn't really fighting him in that like Godzilla tackled him
mm-hmm,
and the two like they fly through the pyramid or whatever. Um and it's crawling on me. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But he goes through the pyramid and then like Kong kind of just dodged him. Like he wasn't really like throwing
mm-hmm,
punches and like actually like wrestling with him. But then at one point, Kong's had enough, and that's when he actually started. Like he threw the punch or whatever, and G even was like, "Oh," like
mm-hmm.
when he actually hit him, it was kind of like the Hulkbuster, "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep,"
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I thought it was hysterical that he was just gonna drag him. I was like, "What is your plan here, Kong?" Like knock him out and then drag him into Hollow Earth. Like, so what's he's just gonna wake up and do the same exact thing to you once you get there.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's like it's like even if Godzilla finds a way to like defeat Scar King and everything, it's like the second all the monkeys are down, Kong is still a monkey that needs to be put down. Like
yeah, yeah, you're
it's
taking
like
him to a place full to kill a bunch of monkeys when you're a monkey. Like,
yeah,
yeah. It's funny though because we go through all of this stuff and we're like, Godzilla balances nature. Godzilla is a force of nature. He is like the one who balances. He is the alpha. He's the alpha predator, the apex predator. Bro is whipped by Mothra.
yeah,
Whipped.
yeah.
The
Which
minute Mothra showed up, he was like, we're cool. See, we're cool. We're good. We're all good, man. Like we're all right. Like he stopped immediately.
Well,
And I
I
think
mean, it's
that's
like,
so
well,
funny.
if you think about it, like, look what he went through, man. Like, he had to watch Mothra sacrifice
Hey,
herself in front of like,
fill me in on this,
Ghidorah.
Mr. Godzilla mega fan. Are they like an item? Like are they, like what is the relationship between Godzilla and Mothra? Like why are the two
Oh,
of
I don't
them
know.
so
Well, they're not.
because you always see the two of them so like closely connected and everything, but like
Hmm.
why? Like why are they it may have explained that in King of the Monsters, and I just don't remember. But like, why are
Well, it's just
Godzilla and Mothra so?
they just have like some symbiotic relationship. It's the same way as like, let's see, you know how this is a weird. I don't know why I know this, but there's a species of frog that will coexist with a species of a spider, and they will coexist with each other because they help each other out. One gets each other food, and one helps them from getting like attacked by bigger animals. So like they
I didn't
have
know
that
that.
symbiotic relationship. So there are such things as animals having that type of relationship with each other where they can like coexist that you wouldn't have thought would coexist. So it's the same type of like relationship. I think that's how they are explaining it in the legendaries. Like they just have that, you know, symbiotic relationship that they can like work together because both of them are considered defenders of the world or whatever, of like nature or whatever.
That's
Which
interesting.
is
I'll
funny
just look that up.
because yeah, so it's a real thing.
It's
But
tarantulas.
yes, so like because the tarantulas doesn't want to be eaten by big prey, and the toad or the frog helps keep them safe, but the spider catches insects for the frog kind of thing. So they have that
Well,
like
yeah,
right.
this says frogs. In addition, frogs feast on ants that would otherwise eat the tarantula's eggs. In return, the tarantula's burrow is a place for frogs to live away from predators. So like they live in the same like burrow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's
Yeah,
interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah. So that's a phenomenon that they're. Oh, I did not say that right. That is a thing that they found
From
that they.
Mavanamam.
Yeah, that is something that Legendary is like established,
Huh.
which is funny because in multiple films and the original Godzilla franchise, Godzilla and Mothra has either been allies or enemies. Like,
Oh, they've been enemies?
yeah, they've been enemies
Oh, I didn't know
in
that.
like 4 or 5 different films. Like the original film, Godzilla was the enemy of the world, and Mothra was the protector of it. So it's been flip flop, and there've been multiple times where like they've been allies too, but primarily they were enemies because obviously Godzilla was a destructor or destroyer of worlds, and Mothra was the guardian, and that's kind of how they always like did it. So it's interesting to see them have that relationship with each other because I think they're pushing that they're pushing that theme, they're pushing that story of Godzilla and Mothra being like allies more.
Yeah. Talk.
So
I gotta show you this. There's Godzilla and Mothra right there together. Straight up.
yeah, see,
That's
that's
so
fucking
funny.
hilarious.
Wow.
Like you think that tarantula would be eating that frog, but
I know, right?
no. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's
The frog protects the tarantula.
yeah, it's fucking hilarious.
Huh.
Like you were thinking it was like some big frog with this tiny spider,
Yeah,
but no,
I'm thinking it would be like one of those like how you see those like rainforest frogs that are like the size of your head, like, you know. Huh.
nope.
That's
But
interesting. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
so
Well, that's
that's
a good analogy for it though, you
yeah.
know.
So that's a
I see
story
that.
of Godzilla and Mothra, at least in legendary size.
Yeah.
So
What did you
which I
sorry.
thought was like beautiful, because
It is.
at least in my head, like in the original script, it wasn't supposed to be Mothra. It was supposed to be some other like ancient being, and I don't think the critics were enjoying that. So I appreciate that quick change of it being Mothra,
Yeah,
because
I think it's good.
I enjoy Mothra being back into
Right.
the
Yeah.
MonsterVerse.
Well, and they made her death in King of the Monsters like a really big deal. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
even to Godzilla, it seemed like that was a big deal.
Hmm.
So,
So that's why it made more sense for Mothra to be brought back into this film, because if it wasn't for Mothra, like Godzilla would have like just killed Kong right then and there.
oh yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, like no
Yeah.
other monster would have swayed Godzilla from ever doing that. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Do, speaking of the whole Mothra thing, like the Iwi tribe down in Hollow Earth,
I got fucking
and
no clue.
that's where it seems a little like in the same way that like A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 Dream Warriors seems very like okay, here we go. Like we're really like we're we're dropping the acid now. Like it just that's kind of how I feel about the whole Hollow Earth thing. Is I'm like, okay, we're really gonna do this now. all right, cool. you know, it's interesting. I don't. It's very fantastical and fantasy and weird, and
Well, here,
there's
I'll say this because you'll be surprised by this, which I thought was really cool. I don't think many people know it. Um, in in the original film of Mothra, when Mothra was introduced, there were two fairies that were introduced with her that spoke for
fairies.
Mothra. Yeah, like two small fairies, twins, that spoke for Mothra to the human world because obviously Mothra can't communicate with humans, so she
Mm,
has two fairies who communicate with them. And I think that's primarily what they're trying to push, but it's not like that anymore. And what I was curious why they went with the Iwi tribe as opposed to the twins. I was curious as
mm.
to why they did that way, but still I'm okay with the way they're going about it. But the reason why I was curious is because there was a cool little Easter egg with in Godzilla King of the Monsters because when Mothra was born, I noticed that there were two characters. Let me see if I can catch their names. Who were they? It
Do y'all
was
see how much of a deep diver Miguel is with this stuff?
it was Dr. Chen. She had two twins. One was hanging around with them in the B-52 like plane
Mm,
with all the other people, but then in the Monarch facility that was holding Mothra, there was another Dr. Chen. So there were two Japanese
okay.
twins that
And
were
what
watching
is
over
this?
Mothra.
What is this in? Where are you getting? There's a
My
freaking
bad.
balloon. What? Where are you getting this information from?
Oh, I
Source.
knew I
Provide your
knew about
source, please. Come on.
the twins, but I thought it was cool that there was that Easter egg. It was something I noticed because when Mothra was born, or every time Mothra was introduced in the final fight in Boston, you could see that those two women had that connection to Mothra, which I thought would have been cool to have that storyline. But then they
Mm.
just like removed it for.
Was that in King of? I don't remember that. Was that in
Yeah,
King?
it
Like,
was in King of the Monsters. It's like
I
it
don't
was
remember
it was
that.
very slight, and you wouldn't have seen it if you weren't watching it, if you weren't like
Okay.
paying attention to it.
Okay.
But I think that I'm kind of upset that they didn't push that narrative because that would have been cool. But
Mm.
I'm okay with the Iwi tribe. I was just surprised that the Iwi tribe. I was surprised that what's her name? Who is the girl again?
Gia. Gia.
Gia. I was surprised that Gia had the connection with Mothra. I thought Gia was just gonna have the connection with Kong, and that be
Mm.
the end of it. But for her to have the connection with Kong and Mothra, I
Yeah.
guess that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's true, dude. I wanted to read you this. I love people so much. I looked at some of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes because I still had the tab pulled up.
Yeah.
Somebody gave it 5 stars, 100%, and said best I've ever seen, dog.
On
I
what?
love it. Another person said this was really great, but where's Gigan? I love it. For real though, who do you want the next villain to be? Because I know there's kind of been like rumors and speculation that it's going to be Space Godzilla.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know.
who do you want Gigan? Do you want Space Godzilla? Do you want like a Destroyer or a you
I
know?
don't know what their plan is. That's what's fucking me up. Because if they, I mean, like, I don't know how long Legendary has Godzilla in his contract, or I don't know how long they want to keep him there. I know that -1 did very well, so
Mm,
they're gonna revive him in Japan. So, like, I don't know what the contracts is leading with like Toho and Legendary and Warner Bros. Like, it's interesting because like both are doing well, so it's
yeah.
foolish for you to like pull the plug or
Well, I
end
feel
it
like
right
I feel
now.
like I remember seeing. I want. I don't know. I don't think it was Adam Wingard. I think it was. I think it was one of the producers or something. Somebody was somebody somebody asked someone a question about, and this wasn't like a random Twitter conversation. This was like an actual someone attached to the film said this. Somebody said what was Toho's reaction to the pink Godzilla thing? And this gentleman replied and was like, "Oh, they loved it. Like they thought it was great. They love the fact that we keep changing Godzilla's design and that like basically he said anything that Legendary does with Godzilla story-wise has to be like triple checked by Toho. Like they're very very I think overly protective of the character, and he said they thought the pink thing was great. Like they liked that they continue to evolve the design of Godzilla and to give him different powers and to do different things. And I don't know. I don't think they're gonna give it up. I think they're gonna let, you know, both things live in their own world. And I think that's smart. I mean, look, both of them are making bank.
Bank,
Like
dude. Yeah.
bank. I mean, Godzilla X Kong is I think nearing like $250 million globally. Like, I mean,
Mm.
it's doing well. It's not like it's um, I know a lot of people were expecting it to do poorly. It's not doing poorly. It's exceeding expectations for the third week in a row. It is exceeding expectations, which is pretty
Hmm.
dope. It's
Yeah.
good to see. I'm really glad to see it succeeding. I think it's good for Toho. I think it's good for monster fans. I think it's good for everybody. Um, it's fun. I'm glad that the reviews for it have been good. I'm happy the the film is where it is, and I'm happy um, that the franchise and the characters are where they are. I'm glad, again, it's a weird double-edged sword thing. I'm as much as we can sit here and criticize the characters and the human story and things like that, like I'm glad that we can give it the Halloween treatment, and it's like, if you want the more serious scary thing, go watch Godzilla -1. But if you want to see big monsters go fight, come on down to the legendary rodeo. I don't know what I'm saying, but you get what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
glad that two different. I mean, are you cool with that? Like as a hardcore Godzilla fan, like are you good with two different versions of the character existing?
I am. And the reason why I was, curious about Godzilla, I was curious about Toho's future and Legendary's future with Godzilla is because it's one thing that I don't think we really like looked into is I know that the audience score for the film is slowly going up, but the box office is slowly going down. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
look at it, like Godzilla 2014 made like $500 million, but Godzilla X Kong has made only like 218.
Yeah.
So like it's and that's been going down from like Skull Island, King of the Monsters, and Godzilla versus Kong. Like Godzilla versus Kong was close to Godzilla 2014, but still it was like under 100 million what it was. So my only concern is I don't want them to get concerned with like, hey, we're potentially going to start losing money with these films, and I don't know what they want to do with that. So, which is common for like, the franchise in and of itself because like let me think. There were multiple like installments in the franchise that like, bombed in the box office or did not make enough money in the box office, so they were concerned with the future of it, so they'd either reboot it or install like another monster or
Right.
do another or revive another monster to like do something, which is why we have fucking 3 Godzilla versus Mechagodzillas and 4 or 5 Godzilla versus King Ghidorahs,
Yeah.
and why we have Godzilla versus Kong is because those were big name monsters to bring us more money.
Right.
So for me to say, hey, what monster do we want to see next? It's interesting because it's like, do we want to bring like a niche monster to the franchise that not a lot of people know? Or do we want to stay with a big hitter and just push the story or try to push the story further into that? So,
Yeah.
because my only concern
I'll
is I
tell
don't
you.
want them to like spread it out and then it being more lackluster. as the movies go on.
Mm, that's fair. That's fair. I agree with that too. It's like you got to know when to cap it. I agree
Hmm.
with that. Um, Wikipedia says that Legendary has several new Monsterverse projects in the works. Some of them TV shows. We know that Monarch just got renewed for season 2.
Hmm.
Um, but the chairman of worldwide production, Josh Grode, for Legendary, he's the legendary chairman of worldwide production, said that. I mean, was in April 10th, so literally 3 to 4 days ago. Um, told a magazine that he told the Hollywood Reporter that Legendary and Toho are in a good position to continue the journey. So
Well,
so
that's
it
good.
doesn't. I kind of figured now, like, since the box office is doing well and like the reviews are good, like I kind of figured they're gonna keep it going. I mean,
Hmm.
I could see them squeezing between anywhere from probably 7 to 10 films out of it. I really could
Yeah,
give
I
Kong
would
another
say
sequel, give
I would say
Godzilla another
probably 7 to
sequel.
10 projects, not like movies,
That's
but like
yeah. I would
projects.
agree
I
with
could
that.
see it.
That's a good way to put it. That's right. That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah, do a Monarch season 2, give Godzilla another sequel, give Kong another
Hmm.
sequel. Let me ask you this: do you want the next project to be Godzilla and Kong, or do you
No,
want just a solo Godzilla movie?
I would much rather a solo Godzilla movie
Because I mean,
because
they're gonna cross paths again at some point. Like
yeah, they
it's
have
gonna
to.
happen.
If
It
you
would
keep
be
them both
weird.
alive.
It's like what we've talked.
I'm just saying, like if you're keeping them both
You're going
alive,
there,
then yeah, they have to like cross
right?
paths again.
Yeah,
So,
it's like the MCU stuff. How we've talked about, like, it would be weird for some of them to not interact with each other.
mhm.
Like it's too close knit. It would be weird if Godzilla and Kong just never interacted with each other ever again in the universe. Um, but yeah, I think I'd be down for that, for each of them to get another standalone film. That'd be cool.
Mhm. I would too. And then just give Mothra a movie too, or a TV show. I don't really care. Give more insight to the Iwi tribe. And here's I don't think I ever like explained this to you. I later learned after more research about Monarch, the TV series. You know how we were
Hmm.
confused with like how Hollow Earth is as compared to Hollow
Yeah,
Earth and Monarch.
yeah.
What I learned was Hollow Earth and whatever the fuck Monarch was in are completely different. So where Monarch is, you know, and with all the monsters and stuff, they were in the space between Hollow Earth and the world. That's what they're saying. There's a space in
I'm
between
gonna be
Hollow
real with
Earth
you. That almost
and
makes it more confusing.
I know it makes it all the more, and that's why
It's like an enigma. It just
and
keeps
that's
getting more and more confusing. Like the deeper you dive into it.
yeah, and because what we were concerned was is if in Monarch, whenever they got into the portal, like 5 hours in that area is like 8 years in the fucking normal world. But so we were concerned why in Hollow Earth they could just jump in and out like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's because in Monarch they were in the space between spaces, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
So has Godzilla been in there before? Has he been in Hollow Earth, or was when him and Kong jumped out of the hole and started hauling ass? Was that the first time he's ever been in Hollow Earth?
Maybe.
Because I find it hard to believe that Godzilla is the king titan. He's the alpha. He's he balances the planet. But there's this entire planet below, like this entire world beneath him that he has no control over. Like that's weird to me. Like
No,
that doesn't make any sense.
yeah. Well, Godzilla has obviously been to Hollow Earth because the story that the Iwi tribe were talking about, like Godzilla was the one that put
Oh
them
yeah. That's
further
true. That's
down
true.
into the
Yeah,
subterranean
and there
level.
was all the Godzilla skulls and stuff down there too. In
Yeah,
that room Kong found.
but
Yeah, he's been down there.
you realize that there's normal Earth, the space between spaces, Hollow Earth, and then subterranean.
Yes.
like it goes deeper than Hollow Earth, and I'm like,
yes.
bro, what the fuck are you
I know
saying?
it's friggin' wild,
And
man.
like I was like,
It's like
more
hard to wrap your
places.
brain around, honestly.
Yeah, and it's getting to the point where all you can go, the only places you can go now is like fucking up. So yeah,
Yeah.
obviously I could see us getting like
Space
space
Godzilla.
monsters.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah, I could see us getting space monsters, but it's silly
Yeah.
for us to push that narrative right now. Like, you
Yeah,
got
I don't
so
know.
much more to like delve into to
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's like, hey, we got you really confused about Hollow Earth now, and like sub Mediterranean salad, all the
it's like
whatever, all
Jason
this
going to
stuff.
space.
Now we're gonna get
It's like
yeah.
you had Jason Goes to Hell, but
But
hey,
the
let's take Jason go to space now.
but the difference with Jason though is that we explored every avenue at like at nauseum with
Mhm.
Friday the 13th. They've like dangled the carrot of Hollow Earth and all of this stuff. But if they did Space Godzilla, it would just be like it's just like I don't know. Like they've dangled the carrot, they've thrown you all of this information, but now we're gonna jump and we're gonna go to this other thing too. It's just it would be a
Yeah,
lot.
my
you
head
know?
still can't wrap around much
Yeah,
of it.
my head
But
basically just spins anytime anybody discusses Hollow Earth. I'm like, okay, like
yeah,
cool.
same.
You know, even the characters when the characters are giving exposition about it, I'm like, what?
No,
you know.
I'm with you.
Hey, we haven't even acknowledged the chat at all. What's up, Brett, man? Good Real Hunting is here. Hey, everyone, Brad and Miguel. He
Yeah,
also said Godzilla is the king of kings. He is, my friend,
he is the
except for
king of
King
kings.
Kong, because Kong is king. Just saying.
Oh,
We still have never acknowledged him as King Kong.
he's
just
king
saying.
now.
I know
He's
they've
king
kind
now.
of made it like, oh, he's king of the ape, like whatever. I also don't know how I feel about all the apes being down there. I
Neither
really
do
don't.
I. I'd hope they all died.
I is that bad of me? I kind of had the same thought. I was like, I hope in the next movie all the gorillas die.
Yeah, it's kind of
Like
silly,
it
bro. If you
seems
think
weird.
about it, did you do a size comparison of Suko,
What do you
like
mean?
the little ape?
I saw some people saying Zuko was the same size as Kong and Kong Skull Island, and I was like, I don't think that's true.
That is true.
I
It
don't
is
think that's
sexual.
true.
It is
I
part of the
really
story.
don't.
He is, in fact, the same size as Kong and Skull Island. Because again, Kong was an adolescent.
Yeah, but I don't know. SUV. It literally just whatever. This has him being bigger than Kong.
Yeah. Kong was 104 feet in
What?
Skull Island, while Mini Kong was 149. Yeah. Bro, Suko is going to be
Really?
fucking dangerous.
Really though?
Yeah, apparently, dude.
That's odd to me. I don't
Bro,
know how I feel about that.
that's
That's weird.
nerve-wracking if you think about it. Like, Suko is
Huh.
going to be a fucking menace to it.
Brett said, Zilla never had to throw sand, cheating bastard
Bro.
Kong. He said,
I
Miguel,
can't
tell us how
believe
you really feel.
I totally forgot that like
Hmm.
Kong had to do his pocket sand thing to Godzilla. That's funny. That scene right
Is
there is
that
hilarious.
okay? I don't know. It's weird to me, man.
I know it makes it all the more over the top if that makes sense. Because like if you didn't have humans at all,
I'm trying
this
to
would have been Planet of the Apes.
for real.
Like that entire scene would have just been like I wouldn't be surprised if like if Caesar was in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me share this. I was trying to make it so that I could see it
Bro, did you I
easier.
can't believe we'd even talk about like Kong using Suko as like fucking nunchucks.
I know that was
Bro,
pretty
that scene
funny.
right there was fucking hilarious.
Now that does something about this doesn't look right to me.
What?
Kong looks so much smaller than Godzilla. That doesn't
Yeah.
seem right.
Well, Kong is punched over. That's all.
That does not seem right to me.
That's right around there. Like I'd say,
Mothra looks accurate. Suko looks accurate. Scar King looks too small. Kong looks too small. Shimo is about accurate. Shimo is pretty big. Huh.
I would say Kong is probably like 300 and like I would say like
This says
340.
337 feet.
I would say 340 at best,
Uh,
345 maybe.
I would say like 370.
Bro, Shimu is 350.
There's no way.
Yeah,
Shimu's taller than Godzilla. I would say, okay, if Godzilla's 393
so
feet
okay, so
tall.
you gotta understand something right now. This list is obviously not really. It's I from you're getting this from iFunny. I want you to
Okay,
know right now.
I see
So,
that, but like, I don't know, whatever. Strange to
but
me,
it
sir. I
bothers you,
don't
don't it? Yeah,
like.
the fact that
It
Suko
does.
is
It kind of
apparently
bothers
like
me.
yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Could you imagine Suko in Skull Island? Like, could you imagine that
He
personality of
looks so
Suko?
big though. Like he looks
Yeah,
massive in Skull Island.
yeah. Well, that's where
Like when you're
I
seeing
think.
in the scene where all the helicopters are circling Kong and we get like the nod to the Empire State Building plane thing, like
Mhm.
it Kong looks so massive compared to those helicopters. You know?
Yeah, because you didn't have like in reference to like actual Godzilla or like any other monsters, and I think that was
Mm,
back, it goes back to what you're saying right now, like how they would try to make the monsters feel much more uh epic and like massive as opposed to the humans because that was the
yeah.
first time they ever met like a beast of that size. So they had to like exaggerate the size of Kong, even if he was an adolescent. That's why they were saying like, oh, they were like, oh my god, you see how massive that ape is, and then the survivor was like, oh, but he's just a baby, like he's just a kid right now. Like it's supposed to like show the fact like, yes, he is massive at least right now, but like he's only going to get bigger, and I think that was the whole point of Kong Skull Island. So.
Yeah.
And you
Dude,
notice how like in Godzilla 2014, like he was like he's steadily been growing over the years.
you want to laugh? So we're talking about these 300-foot titans and things like that. So this Kong, which is still to this day my favorite Kong, Peter Jackson's Kong,
Mm-hmm.
bro is like 30 feet tall.
Yes.
Compared to them, he's like a speck compared to, you know what I mean? And he looks huge there. Like he looks like he's taller than the T-Rex there, but like that guy would stand zero chance against any of these Monsterverse Titans.
Yeah.
Literally zero chance against them.
Yeah.
That's
It's
so
like,
funny.
well, if you look at it, what's funny is like what's his name? It's not Suko. Who's the other? Doug? Um
Doug.
yeah, the monster that was playing tug of war with Kong over his like dinner.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny because like they said Doug is the most powerful monster in all of Hollow Earth because he won the tug of war with Kong over that little meat. Yeah.
Whatever.
But Doug would smash Peter Jackson's Kong.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Like
And Peter Jackson's Kong was dope. Like, bro stood on business the entire time. But
yeah,
like,
bro still in business. But then like it's funny when you think of like literally if Suko was in Peter Jackson's Skull Island or Doug was in Peter Jackson's Skull Island, they would make easy work of almost everything over there.
yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I think that's something that you want to see more of is like them to like really tell them no, like these are massive creatures.
Yeah,
But I think that that's why we had 2014 and Skull Island and King of the Monsters to be like these are titans.
yeah.
These are massive.
I didn't realize. I saw
Animal.
somebody put a size comparison in a Facebook group the other day. Godzilla in 2014 is much shorter than he is now.
Yeah, because he
I
like.
didn't realize that. Like they've aged him. Did you realize that they've aged him in that
Yeah,
time?
they.
Like
Yeah.
he's grown?
Yes, because he's slowly like gaining more radiation and gaining more power and all that stuff. Like,
Hmm.
oh, buddy was in hibernation. Okay, you have a polar bear who goes into hibernation like for the rest of the season. Like, yeah, he's gonna look skinny and small, but the second he starts building back up all the way to the next hibernation season, he is like fucking massive.
Mm,
And that's the whole point.
that's
Which
fair.
is why like the world was in balance for so long since the days of Monarch, which is so when you first see him, he is just coming out of hibernation. Like he has very little radiation and he is just woken up. So obviously he's a lot smaller than he was. But the
Hmm.
more he fought, the more he was up in the world, the more he kept
Yeah.
exposing himself to radiation, the bigger he got. So that's yeah, like he slowly kept getting bigger and bigger and
The
bigger.
more protein shakes, the more
Yeah,
deadlifts, the more
yeah.
all of the the typical things. Let's do our ranking. I think we've talked about the film quite a bit. Let's rank them because there's only 5 of them. You can throw in Monarch if you want to. I have not watched Monarch all the way through, so I can't give a fair. I can't throw that in ranking. So it's 6 projects if you count Monarch. It's only 5 if you're counting the movies. So
Well, I'm only gonna do 5 because it's gonna be easy. Do you want me to do mine first?
sure. Give me your bottom 2 first. Give me your bottom 2.
Okay, so so 5, it's obviously biased, but like it's for me 5 is Kong Skull Island, and
Screw
then
you,
4 it's
you dick.
GXK. So that's where I have it.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that these are the worst because I'm not saying that. All 5 of these films are dope, and I will watch all 5 of these without hesitations. And I have watched all 5 of these,
We
and
need to do watch
enjoyed all.
alongs.
Yeah, like I
We
do a
should
watch
straight up
along
do
with
a
all of
watch
these.
along of these.
Yeah, so but if I had to but obviously I'm ranking them. So out of the films that I would like, this show's over. Like, like we finished this show, and I still have time, and I'm not fucking tired of shit, and I want to go watch a film. This is where I would rank how I would watch
Yeah,
it. So
yeah.
5 would be Kong Skull Island, and 4 would be GXK. Now, I hate to say that, like, I hate to put Kong Skull Island that low down because I enjoyed the film because the human interaction was great because you had Brie Larson, you had Tom Hiddleston, and you also
Hmm.
had Samuel L. Jackson. All 3 are a
It
top
did.
tier cast. Like,
It did have a
never in a
stacked
million
cast.
years would have I expected a Kong movie to have
That stacked
like,
of a cast.
yeah. So, but still, like, in regards to like me being partial more to Godzilla, obviously, I would watch a Godzilla film bef- before I watch
Right.
a Kong film. And GXK, even though I just watched it, I've only seen it once, and I haven't given it like much thought since. I'd be foolish to put that higher than all the other films after watching it for so many times and knowing more about the lore. So that's why I have that one at 4 because obviously I don't know. I haven't really watched it all that much yet for me to actually have like a decent enough opinion to know where it goes in my list. So that's why I have them there.
Right. Yeah. Um. So for me, so I can't hate you too much because my number 5 is Godzilla 2014,
Yeah,
which
fuck you.
I know. We did it to each other. It's okay.
Mm.
It's out of love. Now, listen, I really enjoy Godzilla 2014. I think it is the best modern take. When I say modern, I mean modern as in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s and today, you know. Um like I think it's the best modern take of Godzilla, you know. And this is coming from somebody who I really enjoy Godzilla 98 for what it is. Like yes, it kind of went off the rails and did its own thing with like the like the the Godzilla eggs and the babies and the like it did its own weird thing with that, but like I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that film for what it is.
Yeah.
Um I enjoy how dark and gritty it is. Godzilla feels menacing in Godzilla 2014. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like Bryan Cranston, we had his wife dying and him saying, this is going to send us back to the Stone Age. And like the stakes felt real when Godzilla showed up. When
Mm-hmm.
you saw his size, when you saw him start fighting the Mutos, when
Well,
you like, it felt dark and gritty. The scene is one of my favorite shots of the entire MonsterVerse. In the final scene, when you see his shape in the smoke,
mm-hmm.
like in the fog, and I forget where the final battle of that film is. It's I forget now,
San
but
Francisco.
was it really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It was in
Maybe
San
it's
Fran.
not the final battle. I don't know, but you see Godzilla's tail kind of moving, and
That's
he's
San
just
Francisco. Yeah, that was
like
in San Francisco.
lightning strikes, like it's backlit, and you just
Mm-hmm.
see the shape of him moving in the fog. Like that was so cool and so creative. Seeing the sparks fly and hitting him as he's rising up out of the ocean, like that movie did so many things so well. And
See,
I
that's
think
where.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I
It's
think
just
the
your list.
only reason I have it that far down on my list is because it is very slow. I enjoy the human story. I think the human story is good. I think the Godzilla stuff is all great, but it is a slow burn, which is
Mm-hmm.
fine. That's not a bad thing.
So
But
is Jaws.
exactly, and Jaws is one of the greatest films ever made. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it quite as much as some other MonsterVerse entries.
Yeah.
And then my number 4, it's ironic both of them are here, is Kong Skull Island. So
I love how it's your
both of
origins.
their
The origins are
yeah.
so far
Well,
low.
and I think for me too, like again, my criteria for this was like rewatchability.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the same camp as you. I mean, I could turn on any one of them right now and be content to watch
Mm-hmm.
it. Like
Yeah.
I could enjoy it. Throw
Yeah.
on Kong Skull Island, it's great. Throw on
Yeah.
Godzilla 2014, it's great. Throw on King of the Monsters, it's great. I
See,
rewatched Godzilla versus Kong not that long ago, about a week or so ago.
well, we just did that watch along too. So
Oh, that's what it was. Duh, you're right. Um, that's I'm an idiot. That's when I rewatched it. Um, so yeah, I enjoy both of the origin films, but I think I'm at a point now where I'm spoiled and I'm like, okay, I want to see the newest stuff. Like I want to see the
mhm.
Godzilla and Kong stuff. I want to see them fighting, or I want to see them
See,
teaming
that's
up.
so
Like,
funny, guys,
you
because
know,
he just went on that whole camp about like
I
human
know, I know,
interaction
I know,
and
I know.
showing the epicness of like these monsters. Bro, you were mentioning you missed like the best introduction to Godzilla in 2014. Like you had the scene where like he was finally arriving to Hawaii, caused a tsunami and caused all this havoc for people, and then you have the moment where like the humans finally like see Godzilla and everything is so quiet and all you hear is his echoing bellows, and like you just like they're just at all with like how massive this creature is, and it's just like out of
It's great.
nowhere.
It's
Yeah.
great. It
Yeah.
really is. And again, I'm not saying it's the worst. It's just like if I was gonna watch them, this is probably the order that I would watch them in because
Mhm.
as much as I enjoy the origin stories, I know they're not really like
The first installments, yeah.
yes, the first one. Um, you know, I don't know. They're good. I enjoy them, but I enjoy the other ones more.
Mhm.
I will say, dude, the aesthetic of Kong Skull Island is sick. Like the color
Mhm.
palette they used, the action sequences, how they're shot, and it's like you see Kong through like the windows of the helicopter fighting, and like it's really cool. That film is shot really, really well. Um, and he's brutal. Like the post credit scene in that movie was mind blowing, literally mind blowing.
Mhm.
It was wild.
No, I'd agree. Kong Skull Island definitely was a film that like felt. it felt much more like a kaiju film than I thought it would be for a Kong movie, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting it to be, your typical Peter Jackson story, but it didn't do that. And I thought that was really cool for it to have its own original story, which again, like this is why I think Kong is so good right now, is because this is like an original story that we're getting for Kong.
Right.
Whereas with Godzilla, we're getting inspirations from older films.
I
But
will
for
be right back.
Kong, it definitely felt uh like Kong is getting its own stories, because I don't recall like anything. Like I know Kong had like the Mecha Kong too and all that stuff, but I don't know anything about like Kong's storyline in the Toho era. So whenever Legendary came out with Kong Skull Island, I was expecting, just Brie Larson being like Andaro or whatever, being saved by Kong. Obviously, you got that a little bit, but it wasn't like that in Peter Jackson or any other older films. So for me to say that like I didn't like Kong, no, I'm not saying I didn't like Kong, but well, I gotta wait for Brad to do his fucking from I gotta wait for Brad to do my other list too, but I don't know. But yeah, do you understand how I was talking about, like, yeah, so with Godzilla, when Brad was going on a spiel about like Godzilla being like not as like epic, whatever, it was like, I mean, come on, guys, like with Godzilla 2014, I mean, it doesn't get more grandiose than Godzilla in 2014. Like they really pushed the narrative of like Godzilla being this massive creature, even though he's the smallest uh form there was. You did it right?
I had to pee so bad. I
There
was
you go.
not I was not gonna make it. I'm sorry. Um. So you want to do top three?
Yeah, you ready? I'll do mine. All right, number three.
Throw them. Give it to me. Hard.
Three is GBK, two G 2014, and one was King of the Monsters.
Okay, so you had Godzilla versus Kong, 2014, King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
Not bad. That's okay.
Why? What was your list?
So my number three was the New Empire, which is
Okay. Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, mine's right next
Again,
to it.
see, I didn't hate it. Anybody who's like, "Wow, he dogged on it the whole time," I really didn't hate it, truthfully. Um, and it's GXK is my number three because the Godzilla and Kong stuff was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why it's my number three. It's even despite the not flaw, but despite the lackluster human storyline and all of that stuff. Like every single time we saw Godzilla and Kong on screen, it was great, and I had a smile from ear to ear, and I loved it. My number two is Godzilla versus Kong. And I would be lying to you if I said this one wasn't so high up on my list just because it meant so much to me and you. Like we were so looking forward to it, and um, it was like it I don't know. It was a film that you and I really really put a lot of stock in,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so much fun to see them duke it out and battle it out and to discuss like the relationship between them, like Godzilla letting Kong live and kind of what it all meant, and the respect between the two of them, the Mecha Godzilla thing. And that film kind of suffers from the same thing as GXK, where it's like the human stuff feels rushed, like there's too much, like almost a little bit of Resident Evil 6 going on, where there's too much going on to keep track of it all. Um, but it's again, it's my number two. It's my second favorite of the franchise, and then of course number one, we have the same number one, which is Godzilla
King of the
King of the
Monsters.
Monsters, which is pretty
Yeah,
dope.
because it's
Um,
probably the most emotional thrill ride that I've gotten from
yes,
any Godzilla film. Like that one felt much more closer to my heart. That one sits much closer to my heart than any of the legendary films. Like that's one of
mm,
those films where like I truly felt the spirit of Godzilla. And I mean, as much as I enjoy um, Adam Wingard, I have to be honest. Michael Daughtry loved Godzilla. Michael
Yeah.
Daughtry was a Godzilla
Was
fan.
was that the director?
Yes.
Yeah. I really
And
liked his
you could
take on it
see,
and his approach to
and
it a
yeah,
lot.
I've watched his interviews, and you could see how much he had care for Rodan, King Ghidorah,
Hmm.
and Godzilla especially. And you could see that with the design that he went with, like it in the storyline that he went with. Like he truly loved Godzilla and the franchise, and you could see it full plain as day. You had his original roar in there. You had the original score in it too, and you also had the theme, like the color hue theme of it being
Yeah.
blue. Like it truly felt very what's it called?
It
I
honored
guess
everything that came before.
yeah, like it was like in honor of like everything that came before, like the relationship between Serizawa and Godzilla. Like although albeit it's different from what it initially was,
Hmm.
but that just what made it so much more emotional, knowing how Serizawa was initially the one who killed Godzilla only to be
The
the
one who
one
had to
who saves
resurrect him.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who sacrifices
Yeah.
himself to save him.
Yeah.
And I think that with this film, like you truly I remember when the trailer came out and we both reacted to it. Like it was emotional, dude. Like I remember seeing
Oh
that
yeah.
trailer and I was like, holy shit, like
Hmm.
Michael like Daughtry's really got something going with this film. And
Yeah.
albeit, I know people weren't a fan of Millie at the time or
I liked her. I
yeah,
liked
I
all of
liked
the
her
human
too.
characters. I
Yeah,
think King of the Monsters has the best balance between emotion, action, um, gritty, dark atmosphere, the human storyline, like everything. Every monster got their due. Every human
I
character
know. It
got their
makes
due.
me
Every fight scene got their due. It felt big and epic and world-ending and massive. Like it
mhm.
just it's the only entry that I think fired on like every single cylinder all
Yeah.
the time.
It makes me
Like,
wonder what happened to the cast after Godzilla King of the Monsters. Like, you had like a great cast. Like
yeah,
Millie Bobby Brown, Kylie Chandler, Sally Watkins, who was who played the mother? I forgot what her name was. Where is she
I
at?
like her. She's a good actress. I mean, she died in the movie.
Yeah. But every single one of these characters, I mean, you had O'Shea Jackson Jr. was pretty fucking
Yeah,
good in this film,
yeah,
and he was
yeah.
just a soldier. And David Straham, who played Admiral William, like fucking phenomenal characters in this film, and all for them just to like disappear. Only person that stayed was Kyle Chandler and Millie Bobby Brown and Godzilla versus Kong. But then that's it. And I think that
Yeah.
was criminal that they didn't keep like at least much of this film. Like also with Charles Dance, like Alan Jonah, like the evil guy.
Vera Farmiga, that's her name.
Oh, okay. But like think about it, dude. What happened to him?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, what happened to Charles
It had the
Dance's character?
best.
Like he
It
found
had the
Ghidorah's
best
head,
group
but
of
what
human
happened to him at the
characters.
end? Yeah.
Yep.
Like there was
Yeah.
so much lore that was like introduced in that film. Here's
Hmm.
where King of the Monsters and then Godzilla versus Kong kind of pissed me off. Was King of the Monsters gave honor to so much of Godzilla's lore and established so much possibilities for the film,
Hmm.
but then Godzilla versus Kong pretty much just said, fuck all that. Monkey and lizard.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
focus on these
Monkey and
two.
lizard.
And that's
Big
it. And
monkey,
I was
big
like, what
lizard,
the
fight,
fuck?
fight.
I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? But I hope they pull more back from King of the Monsters because that one is without a doubt one that I will rewatch time and
Yeah.
time again. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want another film like that. I want something along those lines, you know. And if you, even if that's somewhere down the road, um, if they do a destroy all monsters, save the earth type deal, if they can find a way to incorporate Kong in that, that'd be really cool. Like, but I want a film with that type of atmosphere and vibe and emotional complexity because I think although I loved GVK and GXK, they were lacking in the emotional department. You know what I mean? And I think there's something about the Godzilla character. I mean, look at Godzilla minus one, like, and how emotional that film is. Like, I think that character lends itself to emotion very well, which is surprising considering it's literally a giant radioactive lizard. But there's something about
Well,
that
here
story
I'll
that
say
just
this:
it
minus
does.
one, minus one truly was a film that was centered around humans. I
Right.
know Godzilla was a big factor in it, but Godzilla was primarily a metaphor for guilt and the suffering of those who experienced the um, atomic blast.
Mm,
And that was truly what Godzilla was. Like he was a metaphor for the destruction of nuclear power.
right.
And I think it was very cool that they introduced him that way. And the way the human interactions, like, listen, if you want human interactions with Big Lizard, Brad, you really got to watch minus one at some point. We
I
could do
know.
a
I
watch
know.
along or
I
something
know.
like
I
that.
know. I
But
do.
that's without a doubt one of the movies where I truly felt like Godzilla was not the main character of that film,
Right.
but
And that was okay.
he and no is okay. Yeah. So I
Yeah, I need
I
to check it
thoroughly
out. I need to
believe
watch
that
it.
you should have watched minus one. I wish
I
I
need
wish we
to.
could have
I
put you
know.
in
I
there.
need to. Yeah. But yeah, man, I hope that it continues. I really enjoy this Monsterverse thing that they have going, and I'm excited to see what comes next. And yeah, I mean, again, for what GXK was, it you know, it did what it was supposed to do. So, um, it's been
It was a fun movie. Let's just say that.
it really was. It was a lot of fun, and I think that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a fun entry, like, and
Mhm.
I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with the different movies having different purposes. You know what I mean? You get
Yeah.
the emotional, gritty thing with King of the Monsters. You get the
Honey, don't cry. Honey, don't cry.
the you get the darker, grittier origin thing with Skull Island and Godzilla 2014. You get the fun stuff with GXK and GVK. Like it's there's something for everybody, and I appreciate that about these characters. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Over 2 hour long show. If you've stuck with us the whole time, thank you so much. Please be sure to leave this one a like. If you're following, or if you're listening to us on Spotify or any of the other podcast platforms, tweet at us. Let us know what you thought of Godzilla X Kong, and what you would like to see from the next Godzilla film. From the
Yeah.
next MonsterVerse film. Do you want to see another Kong standalone film? Do you want to see another crossover film? Do you want to see another Godzilla film? Who's the big bad gonna be? All of those things. We want to hear those. So. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at LTN Podcast KY. If you haven't joined the Let's Talk Movies YouTube channel, Facebook group, please do that. It's on the screen. You can literally type in what's on your screen right now, and it'll take you there. So we love you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Have an awesome rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace
Hey.
out.